with you. Congratulations.
Oh, what a nice surprise. Thank you for joining.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, Mary Lou. Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the Soul Food Book Club. We're so glad to be here today with a brand new author, but she's not brand new to us. We know and love this lady so much, and I'm so happy for us to be introducing her book out into the world. Mary Lou Burdick, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Teri.
And
Welcome to everyone.
Our Soul Food Book Club meets every Wednesday, and the members that are with us today are Stacy Lord, Linda Lemieux, the great Auntie Jean Loriot.
Hi, everyone.
Ruth Anderson, the founder and creator of Enlightened World Network, is with us today. And our Christina Leftwich in Michigan, and I'm sure she is a proud niece right now of her Aunt Mary Lou.
Indeed.
So those of you that have your book, can you hold it up? Rhyming Reflections and Inspired Intentions. Mary Lou, tell us how this came to be, please. Give us some background here.
Well, as a young woman, I had lots of thoughts going on in my head, and I learned the value of journaling. And I started writing my thoughts down on paper. I think I did it even as a teenager. Somebody wonderful must have guided me in that direction as a young person. And my nature was one that I recognized it and then took the offer. And as I was writing at that point, I had young children, and they bring out creativity and humanity, I think. And I thought to myself, oh, maybe I'll try to take my journaling to the next step and put it into rhyming words, put some poems down. So that's how it all began for me. And I did that. And then I stopped, life changes. Bless you, Linda. Life changes. And I just tucked it away in a drawer someplace. And I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I thought about him again, and I made my own homemade book of poems, passed it out to my nieces and nephews, and got a nice, positive, loving response from them, encouraging me to take it, and publish it. And I wasn't in the right place. The angels and God had not decided that was the right time for me yet, I think. But when I met the people on the Soul Food Book Club here, you all energized me again to take it to the next level. And I think this book club is a lot about being thoughtful, being mindful, and being taking those thoughts and the mindset and putting it into action. At least that's been my experience here, and so I think that's where the inspirations came from, and the action, the intention. And so that's kind of how it evolved for me. And, I've been very prayerful with Teri in another part of this called On Angel's Wings. Oh, I didn't know we were going to have an advertisement for you, but look what's happening. But it's the truth of the matter is that's how it's all come about for me, is, meeting all of you and being inspired by you, and having the courage then, to trust in myself and put it down on paper again, ask 3 more questions, and it just kind of all evolved for me. And this is what happened, is this lovely little book that's so pretty, isn't it? With the sparkles on the hands and the hands raised up in praise and openness. I just love it. How I feel like it was guided and directed, along, and not just for me to enjoy, but for others. That's the important thing of putting it into a book series, I think, like it is, because it's not just for me. It's for anybody else that, might open it up and maybe be blessed from some of the things that are in there.
Oh, beautiful. Mary Lou, you wrote an introduction to the book, and I want to just read these words because these words touched me so much. As you reflect and put into action the intentions, may you come to know the one deeper and be brought into the vortex of love. May you love beyond the presence of your angels into guidance and light. May you be witness and serve others with grace and gratitude. That is such a powerful intention for a book. Thank you. Thank you for setting that intention for all of us to go beyond the normal, to read this book and do that deeper dive and reflect. I appreciate you and I appreciate the words in this book. And I just want to open it up to anyone who might have questions, comments, share your thoughts. And if you've done any of the reflections, if you want to share anything from that, I would love to see that happen today on this time together.
Teri, I do want to say something. I don't have the book yet. And Mary Lou, I saw your comment about canceling it because I just ordered it this morning. I'm going to gift it to my friend. So no, I'm not going to cancel anything.
Okay. But you do have one coming in the mail from me.
and I'm so excited to see that. I cannot tell you how proud I am of you. It just brings tears. And I know that it's because of your connection to all of these beautiful women that have helped you. Not that it wasn't there, because it was there. But I think the love of and the spiritual love of all of these beautiful women around you has just kind of created a fertile place where it was safe to grow and safe for it to come out into the world. And I am just beaming on your behalf. I'm so excited for you. Cannot wait to have it in my arms.
Thank you so much, Ruth.
And I'm just starting reading because we went on a wonderful trip, but I can't wait to get into it. And I have to tell you, my grandson was here yesterday and he kept staring at the picture and saying, "Oh, look at the pretty hands in the light." He just loved it. But I have started to read through it and it's beautiful. And I'm so proud of you too. And I'm honored to know you and have this book. And I cannot wait to see where it takes me.
And he's 3, right, Stacey?
Yeah, he's 3. And he just kept staring and staring. He would go walk away and he would come back and just sit, look at the hands. So
that's sweet.
There's something about the color blue too on the book that's just attractive. So beautiful. That's my aura, is blue.
I want to say I picked it up and I read the whole thing quickly because it was so lovely. I couldn't put it down, but I need to go back and read it slowly so I can reflect on each one. I had thoughts as I was reading, but I didn't really take time to reflect. So I'm really excited about going back and taking my time, but it's lovely. It's just wonderful. Thank you for writing it. Thank you for having the courage to put yourself out there.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, Mary Lou, it's just beautiful. And I don't, last night on chanting, we were talking, and I had said, I don't think I'm keeping on track. I'm not reflecting correctly. And Charlie, in his wisdom, says, how can you reflect wrong? You're just reflecting, so it can't be right and wrong. But I think when I came back and started reviewing for today, is that I noticed that you kind of make a suggestion about reflection, reflect on, well, like for, I guess one of my favorites is the love well, Anyway, what I figured out what I meant is that I'm taking your poems personally. I'm taking them, they become me. They become what's happened to me or a part of me. I don't know how to explain it, So when I reflect, that's the way I'm reflecting, is like, for instance, your love well.
Jean, would you read the poem? I know they're not real long.
Absolutely. Let me put my glasses on. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Love well. It's called Love Well. Is my love too deep for the taking? Am I asking too much of you? I'm feeling inside. I'm longing to share. Could you give me a moment or two? There is a well within. Sometimes I feel so dry. I have so much to give. Don't allow love to die. Time goes by so quickly. Can you spare a minute? Tell me what's new. Yes, our lives are different, but I want to live mine with you. Was your day filled with joy and contentment, or have you experienced pain? Have you noticed the warmth of the sunshine? Are you wishing we'd have some rain? Today as you worked, was there love in your heart? Did you feel for people you met? Will you tell me something funny or something you don't wish to forget? I like the time we sit and talk. It's time well spent, I think. Thanks for showing that you care. Come to my well and drink.
It's beautiful.
And you see, when I read that, it reminded me of my marriage and how it's changed and how you become taken for granted. And maybe we take the other person for granted also. And, there's a song by Simon from Simon and Garfunkel. And I believe it's Diamonds on the Soles of Your Feet. And if you haven't heard that song, you won't know what I'm talking about. But in that song, he makes a statement, very brief, that just really hit me. And he says, she slipped into my pocket with my car keys. In other words, that person has become so taken for granted, they're just like his car keys that he's holding in his pocket. And this and I don't mean to be acting like this is, a complaint, but that happens where you want them to share their life with you, and sometimes they don't, and they don't mean to be that way. It's just that as marriage goes on, we take each other for granted. And I'm not sure that's exactly what you meant by this poem, because I don't even know when you wrote it. You might have been very young when you wrote it, and I'm old, so I keep taking it in my perspective. But you know what? I think that's what poetry is. I think we read poetry and it resonates in our soul in some way. And so it's not just this one, all of them. The next one, it's just like, it's speaking to me. And I can't thank you enough for how beautiful these poems are and how they make me feel. And maybe it's because you're younger than me, but maybe because we're of an age, or maybe it's because we've had a similar upbringing, but so much of it just speaks to me. So anyway, thank you so much. I love it.
My hope is that every poem will lead people to think of it personally, and however your journey has been, that you can experience it and question it and have some wonderment about it, good and bad, and then and then maybe write your own personal notes in there about what it meant to you and why.
It's the same for a husband. I didn't mean for it to just reflect on maybe a neglected wife, but because I know sometimes like with the meetings, Ron will say, well, what did you discuss? What did you talk about? You know, so he wants to share too. And most of the time I do, but sometimes, I gotta go walk the dogs now or something like that. But it really gave me a look at part of my life, really. So, yeah. It's hard to pick one to talk about because I love them all so much.
I thought that was a good one to start with because it's so heartfelt, and inviting, and it's a good way to bring you into the journey from the beginning of, the experiences that I think all of us have. Many of the poems were not at all unique to me. They were experiences and questions that we have in the maturing process as we're growing and changing in the journey of we call life.
Mhm.
I love that you put reflections in there so we could read it and feel it and write it down, and we can go back and read it again later and keep reminding ourselves of things. So it's beautifully done. I love it.
And you know what? You want the truth of the matter, how that came about. Teri was sitting here in my kitchen with me that day, and we pushed publish on the book, and the publishing company from Amazon said, you need more pages to your book. And it's just a perfect example of the inspiration, and the energies that happen when you keep yourself open to them, because that's how that page came about. Your reflections and intention pages. It's like they wrote themselves. The people from Amazon were involved in it in that way, because I had no idea of doing that. And Teri and I just were talking, and I said, how about if we just add a page with a symbol on it, and call it your reflections and intentions. I think that's how life is, isn't it? I'm experiencing this booklet, as a kind of a inspiration of life choices and steps that we take and decisions that we make. And it's not just always, our mind that does it. There's externals that happen outside of us that direct us and help us along if we're open to it.
So how does it feel to be a published author?
Can't you see it all over my face?
Yes.
I see
Tina
the
said
glow.
that the last time we were talking. It's like it's people use that word ethereal, and that's how it feels. Like when Jean read that poem and they were my words, and I thought, how beautiful is this that other people, are experiencing something in the way that I did at one point a long time ago, and where will it go, and who might be helped by this, and that's really what authors hope. I think all authors, it's not, they understand it's not just about us. It's not about, the person that's, putting the words down on paper. It's for all people that might be interested.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think that's guided. I think that's guided by the divine, so that people like with me, I'm not alone in those feelings. Sometimes you think, okay, I'm just a big crybaby, or I'm just a complainer, but you're not alone in those feelings. Other people have experienced them, and you've always glowed. You have always glowed. But there's a sense of, to me, when I see you now, there's a sense of confidence, a sense of I am somebody. We need that validation sometimes, just to feel that, yes, I can do it. I did it. So you have that sense of confidence now that I love seeing in you.
Thank you, Jean. Today it's here. Tomorrow will it be? It's very, that's also very, ethereal. I mean, it's like otherworldly because we don't know. I don't think there's any promises, in life. I think that we have good years and good days and good moments, and I think I've learned that over the years that, it's okay. That's okay. I don't even remember if it's in here about the valleys and the valleys and the mountains. It might be in something else that I wrote. I don't remember if it's in here. Isn't that awful? But, it's like we have those mountain experiences where things are very, very good in life. And then there's a valley experience and it's not so good, but that there's lessons to be learned in each day, each moment of every day. There's lessons to be learned and there's love to be given and life to be shared. And, I think I have been through a divorce in my life. And I think one of the things I learned was that that's okay. That's the process of life. And, everybody has pain in their life and they have happiness in their life. And it's what you make in the process and the journey going through it. And my mom taught me, when you're in a bad day, then get through it. And then when you're a happy day, you're strengthening and you're building your courage and your abilities to get through the next valleys because they will come. It's the process of life and learning and it's fine. It's all good. And it takes a lifetime sometimes to learn those things. I don't think I was so good at it when I was going through it, and again, that's part of the reason why I wrote my thoughts and feelings down, because it helped me to get through things. Yeah.
I'd like to read a poem, if I could, about getting through things. It ties into what you just said. It's a sailor. The storms will come and breaking waves may batter one about to challenge weak and brave. A stowaway can never feel the joy as well as pain. He's hiding away the pleasure his courage may have gained. There is a stirring thrill in coming off the shelf, riding through the turmoil when you trust yourself. The worry on your furrowed brow, oh, be it not for me. A life is charted day by day as the captain charts the sea. So I feel like we have all had troubles. If you wouldn't be human if it was all good. So we have all had experiences or troubles, and you learn from it and to learn not to be the victim. And it's, in my case, was so enlightening when I learned to have a voice and to speak and set boundaries. And that's how my personal reflection of it was. But I wanted to say, in combining that with another thought of helping others and giving people a compliment or being nice, a lot of times I can see in them what I have gone through and know they just need a kind word. So it never hurts to give a kind word, but sometimes I just can feel, somebody's going through something and they need a kind word. So thank you for all of it. And when I was reading it, I thought that I know you, and it made it special because I could hear your voice as I was reading it. But I thought if I didn't know you, I would really be wondering about you and how you were and would want to meet you. So it was delightful.
Mary Lou, I just wanted to express both how immensely and truly proud I am of you for going ahead and taking the leap, taking that step and leading by example. Also, I want you to know that I can tell you all of your nieces and nephews are great supporters of this. And we just love that you have done the work. And there's just so much in this to look. I like both the poem Experience as well as this other one, because this one's a little bit shorter. It's Up and Down. And it's one that kind of tails in with what Linda had, which is up and down. First, you're on a seesaw, sitting on the ground. Then you're on a seesaw, way up in the air. When you ride a seesaw, balanced in the middle, now you solve the riddle. And I'm like, well, that's just simple and to the point. And I heard a couple little giggles, and it made me giggle a little bit too. And I'll share with you a personal experience. I'll just let you all know that this whole thing with family members writing poems has been going on, I believe, for quite some time. And this just brings me back a little bit to whenever we had any kind of event, family event, and we had many. We celebrated many holidays together as a family, a very large one. And my mom, I remember her on the phone sometimes with Aunt Mary Lou, and they were coming up with these usually very humorous poems as flyers or introductions to an invite to a party. And I wish I had some of those flyers that got sent out. But of course, to me as a child, I just remember my mom sitting at the kitchen table writing these down with her phone up to her ear, laughing as she's writing and coming up with these one-liners, rhymes. It's just very much to me to our more Irish roots, I believe. I believe there's a reason why the family crest has that lyre on it as the I think we've always been songwriters and storytellers, and I'm so proud of you for stepping up and out and bringing that to light. That's great.
That's a true fact. And Aunt Mary, who is my namesake, Mary Louise, she was always Aunt Mary and I was Mary Lou. And she would stand at our bonfire picnics that we would have on the 4th of July and recite pages of poetry that she had put into her mind, and she could just remember them. And my mother would take a turn, and Auntie Eileen, and that was part of who we were growing up, and then the next generation, Aunt Margie too. I actually, she's been so kind and purchased some of the books to give out and to people, and I told her she should go through her paperwork because she would write happy poems. Her poetry would be so different than mine, but genuine, and so I guess it's always been a part, of who we are, is that gift handed down through the generations. My dad was more apt to sing a song that had a rhythm to it, but I remember on my mother's side, I think you got something to that with the Irish heritage there, Tina.
I love you.
Love you too.
Mary Lou, I remember when we first started talking about your book of poetry, and you had asked for some advice and for some help, and I had shared with you I'm willing to do that. And then, the timing just wasn't right. But when I sat beside of you, that was the divine timing. And we sat there, and I got to see your face when you hit that publish button and knew that this was real. You knew that it was actually going to be out there. So when someone asks you how it feels and how you're doing with becoming an author, I saw it firsthand with you. And in every text that you would send afterward, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this revision? I just saw more and more confidence building. It wasn't just like thrown together, like, okay, these are the poems, let's put it in there. It was really thought out. And we can see the result of that. It's so beautiful, and you're so beautiful. And just listening to everybody, I feel like a proud parent because I am Mama P after all. But just seeing how this came to be, and I'm so proud of you. And thank you to everyone who's reading it.
One day I put makeup on and you're making me cry. I'm just so proud of her. I can see it. And I just, I'm just so proud to be here today to share this.
I also like how it was set up in the beginning with the intentions and reflections. So it opened up a bigger world. So like whatever I was feeling in the moment, there was both an intention and a reflection. So either of those categories could include something I was feeling in the moment to reflect upon. And I just wanted to say that was awesome. And I do appreciate those questions. That made a world of difference. It really, really did. What a great, and it was just an awesome addition. And thank you for sharing that love that was shared, Teri, because I think it's very important to really shout out to one another how just the simple act of being next to somebody, for them to take a step without even really having to say much at all, how big of an impact we can make on someone else. And so thank you.
Absolutely. And the other thought I had was, Mary Lou, this is your legacy. This is what you're leaving, all those family members that Christina was talking about, and all of them that are so proud of you. This is something they have in their hands now. So thank you for doing that for your family and your friends.
My daughter Marie has been so supportive and helpful from the beginning, of this whole process. And when I told her, that I think it's going to finally get published, and that I was doing questions, adding the questions, it became less about me and more about the reader. And that's the part that I love. And she helped me, to, formulate how to think about those questions. And then after they were in print, I thought, I wished I had put part of there's always something you wish you did a little bit more, right? In everything in life. And I wished I had put, that each person can have their own question to add into those. I think that's the piece, that is the most important in this journaling type of a book, that it's wonderful to have the thoughts that I wrote in the poem, but then to take those thoughts and personalize them, and maybe think of your own question and think of your own intention, that might come from that. And when Marie and I were talking, she told me her favorite was On Your Own. So that'll be my poem to read today, okay? Because Marie, I raised my two daughters to be very strong young women. And I didn't have a formal education in college. I was a middle child in a big family. And by the time my turn came, my way was to work at the same company my dad did. And I got a job right out of high school and did that. And my life just never took the turn for me to become formally educated in a college setting, other than to enhance my job skills, at the church where I worked. And that happened. And it was exactly like a college education, because I took 3 courses a week and drove with a friend of mine to the university. And there was 2 different universities. And it was an amazing experience for me, and made me so feel so complete, because it was something I always wanted. I was a little bit jealous of Tina's mom all my life, because she was an older one and she got to be a nurse. She went into nursing education, and my other sister was a teacher, and she had a degree, and and it was my own fault, and even when I did take these courses, I didn't know enough that the financial responsibility, I didn't have enough confidence in myself at that time to say, I'm just going to get a loan so I can get a degree along with the education. So, it's always been a puzzling thing for me, to accept that I'm still an educated person. I just don't have a degree in that. And so therefore, I think it became important to me that my daughters were well educated. And I remember saying to them when they were teenagers, I think the most important thing for a woman is to become a mother, to have the love of a child, because you have given that to me. And I see the treasure in that. But I also think it's important for you to be educated, so those two goals I gave to them. I think I gave that sense, and I think they embraced it. I don't know if they even remember me saying that to them, but I remember saying it to them. And and I'm pleased that has happened for them. And I'm not really sorry anymore that and I'm not jealous of my sisters, the younger ones that taught me, the younger siblings, because they did get educated, and I think they probably paid for it on their own. I don't think my mom and dad did that, to help them, but it was just a generational thing for me. My younger sister and the brother underneath her, and next in line, also weren't educated in that way, but my dad always taught us, you learn something new every day. Every day you're learning something new, and actually at one point in my life, my parents offered to pay for me to go back to the local community college. And I didn't have it in me. I just never felt like, I said, no, I couldn't let them pay for it at that stage of my life, even though I didn't know enough to get a loan myself, so it's just all part of the journey, of self-compassion and self-value and self-worth. And what the world tells you is important is not always the most important, and yet I knew enough to have my daughters well educated so that come the day, if they ever had to, they could take care of themselves financially, and it would create a different sense of self-worth within them that was a little lacking in me, maybe. I hate to admit it, but I think my poems reflect some of those feelings that I had as a young woman, and so this poem is called On Your Own. Look to yourself for the answers. You've got to make it on your own. No one can tell you any better. You name the time, you set the tone. Everyone needs someone sometimes, but look to yourself first and last. Inside of you are answers. Discover some slow and some fast. We all have problems to solve, decisions and choices to make. Must we turn to others for advice or look to ourselves? Chance a mistake. Does everyone learn the hard way to trust in ourselves and be free from doubt and nagging pain, opening up so others may see? Where do you get the right to judge, and who are you to criticize? How can you tell right from wrong when things are true or only lies? We are all so very different. God has chosen to make us this way. No matter how you look at it, night is night and day is day. Look to yourself for the answers. You've got to make it on your own. No one can tell you any better. You name the time and you set the tone. And I think that that's something we all come to. I suppose every one of these poems, is, again, I feel like every time I see them or look at them or read them, or when I wrote them, they weren't just for me. Any poem is intended. The intention of poetry is to help us to reflect and think about, what does it all mean? And I think it all means something different to each of us. And yet there's a truth to all of it for all of us also.
Yes, and I know Grace Isis wants to speak. I saw her unmute, but I just wanted to say thank you for giving us a little insight into your life as we are reading your poetry and helping us to understand with some of them where you were, what you were dealing with when you wrote the poem. Thank you. Grace Isis.
Hello to all of you, and I'm so privileged to be in your midst. And thank you very much, Mary Lou, because I got, I know most of the books may be signed, but mine came personally from you after our land blessing. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Grace.
I want to thank you so much. It's a beautiful book, and you were with such a great guide by your side, as well as guidance from the divine realm, because this was on God's time, and it could not have come out at a better time, because God said, incubate them and then let them out when I tell you they're ready to fly. And they are ready to fly. They have their wings. I want to go back to a comment that you made, that you wanted to put in another sort of, those questions, those reflections for people. But you see, you've given everybody the exact amount of sugar on the teaspoon. What is it? What, just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down? So this is the right portion, so that we're not going into our diabetes, we're not going into this. Everybody can take, that spoon and put it into their tea, and then let them savor, let them swallow, and let them also come up with their own interpretation. You're a vehicle. This is the vehicle, and we get in to reach the journey that God wants us to reach, or that the universe wants us to reach, or that our souls want to reach. It's all about souls, growth, and experiences. So I feel it is perfect in where it is, what it is, the amount that is in there. Because as we're always told, and as Teri always tells us, you cannot impose on the individual, on a soul's will of choice, on a soul's depth of learning. You can just provide the lights, give them the way, and then let them find their way, just like we do with the children, and like you did with your children. You spoon fed them what was your mandate, and then they were out into the world. I really like the setup of the book, as Christina said. For example, it's just wonderful, because you just go in and you see, for example, number 37, just words. And the intention is the use of words. And that particular one resonates so much with me, because we're always told words matter. What words are you using, not only towards others, but to yourself? So this is also that spoonful of sugar. This is our sugar. This is our pill to learn about ourselves. Thank you so much for a great pill that the doctors can prescribe. I really, really enjoy reading it, and I just sort of opened the book. I read the preface, the first, and thank you for the signature. Then I just opened to what jumped out at me, and I think that's another wonderful way that this book can come to us. I really liked people pleaser blues, and and the intention was go deep within, because sometimes we also were so ready to please because that's our nature. But then do we please ourselves? Do we look back at ourselves and within? So thank you so much for this book. And thank you also for this opportunity to talk to you and hear your story and know your journey. I'm privileged, I'm blessed, I'm honored, I'm humbled. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
I don't know if any of the rest of you here have written poetry before. I've written it most of my life. I've written out little poems and longer poems. But what I found happening as I started reading this, and I read this months ago when I started working with Mary Lou on the book, what happens with me with those reflections is I want to write a poem. I want to write something in response to what I'm reading. Anybody else have that experience?
Yeah.
Yes, I did too. Yes. And it made a lot of things, I started saying, oh yeah, a lot of things come up too. And I'm like, oh, I could finish off with this. You're right. I did.
Wouldn't it be interesting to see if that happens for any of us and we can share that with Mary
Yeah,
Lou?
I mean, that's the beauty of poetry, is even one line in a poem can resonate for whatever reason and go
Yes.
ding, 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 and make these other thoughts come next. And, just those are the thoughts that you pick up your pen and pencil and write down. And they might come in poetry form. It's funny how that can happen.
Mary Lou, I don't know how old you were when you wrote on your own, the poem On Your Own, but it's so appropriate for this time because we have to learn to rely on ourselves during this time. You included so many things, like for instance, that we have to grow, we have to change. We can't just, if in nature, if you're not growing, you're dying, so to keep living, we have to grow. And with today's problems, like you said, choosing between the truth and the lie, that's so important. Even you were talking about in your reflection is, have you had any decisions you have to make? Well, people these days have to decide whether to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. We're faced by these decisions and going back to, what is the truth and what is a lie. And I like the fact that Gracie kind of brought it back to the first poem about words. And if y'all don't mind, I really would like to read my reflection on that first poem going along with this one, because let me just read it. This is a fearful time for many. I can't lie, I fear, but not for myself. I fear that one of my children or my grandchildren might get sick. I don't want anyone to suffer, not anyone. I know that everything will be all right, but I don't want the suffering. I know without a doubt that the divine plan will prevail, that there will be peace on the earth, and that love will rule over all. In human form, time seems an eternity. We see it and it seems like an eternity. What we desire must live in our hearts before it can live in the world. So I will not fear. Instead, I will set an intention to help where I can. What will be shown to me as I need, that I will try to fulfill as my Father would, bringing the love into the world. And that's how your poem moved me. And that's what's happening when people read it, is that we realize it's in us and we have to live it in us before we can live it in the world. And anyway, there's no reason to fear because God's will is done. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that it's affecting people that way. And they'll see what it is that they can do to bring that about. Mhm.
Just beautiful, Jean.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. You know, in each poem, go ahead, Ruth.
I've been resonating on the conversation you had about your decision time and time again, actually, to not get a formal education, because you had the opportunity more than once and you didn't take it several times. I hope that that isn't something that you are allowing yourself in a comparison way to define you, because I know so many people who have higher degrees that don't have the depth and the breadth of the soul. And if I clearly see the depth and the breadth of the soul in your case. So it's a beautiful trade-off, my dear. Please don't see it as something that you are lacking, because it isn't. It really isn't.
Thank you. I don't think that I do today. You know, in my life right now, I've grown beyond that concern. And I do see the value in who I am as a whole individual, and that the educational piece is a part of who I am. It's still, I guess maybe because we're talking about it, it must still be within me, you know, to have some wondering about it.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I remember reading when I was like in my 50s about a woman who was 70 something years old in our area, and she had gotten a degree, and I thought, oh, maybe that'll be me someday, you know. So I guess it's maybe a sadness in me, you know, that I didn't. But don't we all have like a little bit of regret in some ways? But I think I've grown beyond that. You know, it's not with me all the time. I guess it's here now in this conversation right now in this moment. But you know, I do recognize that we are physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual beings. And we don't always reach perfection in all of those ways on every day, you know. And for me, the intellectual piece comes from my self-learning. You know, I know a lot of people in the world, you know, were uneducated in the traditional way. And so I'm okay with that. You know, I look at a person, for instance, with a disability, you know, and then I think of somebody like Bill Gates, who he had Asperger. He is an Asperger. And so that is looked at by some people as less than, instead of they think differently than others. So I've come to learn, you know, that I'm very okay with, you know, who I am physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I think that's my last poem in the book. You know, that I think I've come to the race and maybe I've won. You know, I now have a place of self-acceptance and self-love, and I value who I am as an individual. But it's a process in life that takes us there, you know, and other people might not feel that with their education. They might feel it with their spirituality or with their physical being, you know. So I think, yeah, thank you, Dr. Ruth, you know, for telling me that, you know, to remind myself, because the book is kind of, one of my hopes is that people will come to a place of self-compassion and self-love and recognize their value, you know. In one of my author thoughts that I wrote, I'll share another poem that I thought of when Jean was talking, you know, by Shel Silverstein. And, you know, and I think it's true with everything, you know. It's the zebra questions, because there's no, I mean, we can ask questions and have, you know, thoughts about who we are and why we are and all of that. And this is a great little poem. It said, I asked the zebra, are you black with white stripes or white with black stripes? And the zebra asked me, Are you good with bad habits or bad with good habits? Are you noisy with quiet times or are you quiet with noisy times? Are you happy with some sad days or are you sad with some happy days? Are you neat with some sloppy ways or are you sloppy with some neat ways? And on and on and on and on and on and on. I'll never ask a zebra about stripes again. you know? So I mean, I like to think of that. We're coming to the close, I like to think of it as that joyful piece of who we are, that we can have these poems and we can become reflective, but the most important thing is what we do with those thoughts and those reflections, and we put them into an action, because we'll be asked, we could be this zebra in this conversation, and we don't know if it's a sad day or a happy day, and it doesn't really matter because we're living in the moment and we're learning from the moment, and that's what poetry does. It helps us have some thought and do some reflecting and then act on it in a positive, good way for the world in which we live and the others with whom we interact. And to find that funny poem.
I just wanted to add, dear Mary Lou, and to all of us, that yes, you're right. It's whichever way you're going to use these poems. And I've seen some that I will use as prayers. You had the one that had the kingdom come, be in the moment with God. And poetry is, I feel, is another vehicle of words that you could borrow when you really cannot find the way to express yourself to God, and you can express yourself to God. I really enjoyed the kingdom come, thy kingdom come, and I'm using that as a prayer. And I love the intention, be in the moment with God. Could use it even for meditation. So thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, Mary Lou. You made a statement a moment ago that at the end of the book, you thought you had won the race. You have.
Yeah.
It's a win-win all the way around. It's a win for you. It's a win for us. And thank you for this amazingly wonderful book that just helps us to go deeper and reflect on life and on our thoughts and our feelings and our spirituality. I so appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone that came together today to acknowledge this wonderful new author that we have in our midst and to celebrate her win and our win in having you with us. Thank you so much. Now I'm looking forward to next week on the book club, and as we get further along and do more reflecting, and let's bring in a special touching line or poem that you would like to share next week. Can we do that, everyone? Just make it a time that we really share what we're getting out of the book. And today felt like a celebration of the book. Now let's take it deeper. Just what Mary Lou wants us all to do. Go deeper into it, take a deeper dive, and come in and share with each other next week. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to everyone that was here. Linda, Auntie Jean, Dr. Ruth Anderson, Stacy, Christina, Grace Isis, and we had Julie Kiss with us in the audience. And I know there were more that didn't type anything to us, but Julie was enjoying the conversation that we were having as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you all next week on the Soul Food Book Club. And we always end our shows with a acknowledgement of the beauty that's inside of us and the spirit that's inside of us, and seeing you as having that same spirit in you. We leave you with Namaste, y'all. Bye, everyone.
Bye.